we only focused on this one piece and forgot all the other seven, this could change a person's life.
Right.
This is so incredibly powerful and impactful.
Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. So happy to welcome back Joni Caldwell Lerner, the motivational coach and host of Wake Up with Joni. Thanks for being here again, Joni.
Thanks for having me. You know, I love you, I love the channel, and I love your listeners.
Well, and they love you. And we have a topic today that I think a lot of our guys are going to like, because just like us women, when we wonder about, what do men think? And we do lots of programming on this. This is more, why do I keep getting rejected? This is, this comes up again. It bleeds through in our comments. So I thought, this would be a good thing to discuss with Joni. What do you think?
Well, I love the topic, and I wanted to lay a little bit of foundation before we go into the points that we are going to discuss today. And that is this: to the listener, if you are feeling any kind of resistance as we go through this, if anything that we say triggers you or makes you feel uncomfortable or brings up anger or something, I want you to lean into it and see why. Because the more resistance we have to anything, the more power, the gift of freedom that's waiting for us in that. So in terms of dating, if there's something that you're doing, you cannot change it unless you know what it is. Yeah. So maybe one of these, you can go, oh, I do that. So the invitation is to listen with an open heart, listen with an open mind, see if there's anything here for you. It might just be a little entertaining, maybe a little bit entertaining, or there might be some epiphany in here for you.
Well, let's go through this. As usual, I stumble across these articles and sometimes I wonder how they come up with this stuff. And others I really, agree with. I think one of the questions, point one here, why a woman may be rejecting you is that you're coming on too strong, or she feels that you're coming on too strong. Could that be one of the reasons? Because coming on too strong, or having a disproportionate amount of confidence, and that's where the challenge maybe is, being confident and too strong could be perceived as cocky, and that could turn her off. What do you think, Joni?
Okay. Well, okay. So there's two pieces of this. Coming on too strong could be cocky, or coming on too strong could be lack of confidence. And so they're overcompensating. So that's one thing. The other thing is coming on too strong can be you're on your first or second or third date, and you're just like, questions and interrogations and answers and talking all about you. And there are many forms of coming on too strong.
Right.
And then we've talked about this before. If a man is cocky, they think perhaps that that's being confident. But confident is when you know who you are, you can sit back and let her come into that energy, come into that space, or you can move forward and engage her. But if I've got an agenda and I want her to like me and know how wonderful I am, then I'm going to tell her how many cars I have, or how many fabulous things I did, or how many mountains I climbed, or do you see what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Here's the next one, Joni. You seem to have a negative attitude. And they say here that you seem to have, because some people actually don't know that they're being negative. They think they're maybe just being conversive or offering an opinion or whatever. But if you come across as negative, it makes you it makes people you're with so uncomfortable. And that could be a really good reason why you're being rejected. What do you think?
Okay. Well, I think a lot, actually. And if we only focused on this one piece and forgot all the other seven, this could change a person's life.
Right.
This is so incredibly powerful and impactful. So we come by our original thoughts and thinking innocently. Our parents, society, schools, what have you. If your parents were negative, then possibly you have that way of being and you don't even know it. It's like the frog in the warm water. They don't even know the water's being turned up to boil, because I know it's sad, because they're acclimating to it as it goes. They may not realize just how negative they are being and they're thinking. Now, your reality, folks, and I mean every single human out there, your reality is assembled by your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Your reality exists because of the way you see it and your perception. So you can have 5 siblings and 5 different childhoods.
Mm-hmm.
That's how powerful it is. So if that's true, Joni, that means I can change my thoughts and change my reality. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what we're saying. It's so much more than the 8 things that why I'm not being liked. This is so deeper, so much more deep and powerful. Because when you begin to change the way you think, well, she doesn't like me because I don't have a big enough car. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what she said?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that your old way of thinking?
Yeah.
Is that what you choose to think so that you don't have to look at yourself and change the inside of you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Well, and the thing about negative thinking or coming across as being negative is one of the most difficult behaviors. I say that here too, to overcome when you're rejected, because it fuels, rejection will fuel what is making you negative to begin with.
Right. So now you've got evidence that you're not enough, evidence that you're never going to be with someone. You've got evidence to back up the thought process, the faulty thought process.
Well, let's move on. Number 3 here. She questions your intention. A woman may be rejecting you because she questions your intention. So what does that mean? Well, what are your intentions when you approach someone or on online dating, you meet up for a first date? What is the intention of your date?
So I will tell you, if your intention is to get this person in bed and they clearly said, I want a long-term relationship, that's probably not going to be happening. So there's a manipulation there, or a more innocuous manipulation. I want this person to like me. Don't care. Actually, don't care if they like you or not. Just be you, be open, be kind, be interesting and interested, because that makes you incredibly interesting.
Absolutely. And if your intention, is at odds with what the woman is there for, then obviously there's going to be a disparity there. And yeah, she's probably going to reject you. And again, some of this can happen, maybe it happens once in a while or just once, it's that pattern that you need to be able to recognize in yourself. As, my goodness, I've learned a lot of patterns about me with these conversations. You come across as indifferent. This kind of speaks against some of the stuff we just talked about, that some people are just shy, but your shyness makes you feel like you're indifferent to what's going on, like you're not interested because you're not engaging. I think indifferent is something to really think about. Do you come across as indifferent?
Indifference could be a form of mild abuse. Seriously, if I'm indifferent to my children, I think that's abuse. Indifference seems innocuous, but I think it's more impactful and more powerful than one knows. And I dated, and I didn't date. That's like a ridiculous framing of it. I went on one coffee date with a man who was incredibly indifferent. He was insouciant in the way he sat in his chair. He didn't care. And he's like, you pay for your own tea, basically. I'm like, no problem. You just showed me who you are, buddy. Yeah. But he was incredibly indifferent because he was jaded to the process and still incredibly victimized, angry, and resentful as an ex-wife. And so he was projecting onto every woman in front of him that idea of who women are. Yeah. So that's another one out there for anybody who is operating in the world based on your past relationship. One, or let's say you lost a person to death. 2, so now you're afraid to live again. If you're living from the past, if you're living in that way, you're not fully living. And the only one that can fix that, the only one that can change that, the only one that can wake that up is you. Change what's going on inside your head.
Well, you just went really deep on that. I'm just talking about being shy.
I'm on fire today.
I never even thought about that. But just because there are a lot of shy people. And I guess what I want to leave them with is is just be aware that your shyness could come across as indifferent, but what would you do about that?
Oh, okay. So first of all, shy people out there, we have introverts, we have extroverts, we have
Right.
combos. I love shy people. They're very sweet. And yet they can be incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
So just know that if you're shy, be conscious that it may be perceived very differently than what you think.
Mhm.
And so come up with a couple, to your question, what do we do? Come up with some lines that when you go quiet and you don't know what to say, you've got some in your back pocket, right, of your brain. So are you interested in any kind of sports?
Mhm.
What's your favorite hobby? Why do you love that? And I
Mhm.
want you to write that one down, folks. Why do
Yeah,
you love that?
that tells
Because
you
it,
so much.
oh, but it, yes, it will trigger a conversation because they'll light up and they go, oh God, I love golf because the sunshine and the peace and there's
Yeah.
ducks that walk across. And I mean, you'll get all kinds of answers.
I love that. You're absolutely right. It's an open-ended question to which everyone has an answer, and then now you can listen again. So I really like that. I really like that.
And and here's your other open-ended question. So now you've asked them, why do you love that? Then shy people, not so shy people, tell me more about that.
Yeah, men especially are so comfortable with that. Which leads us right into the next point. You talk excessively over her or about yourself versus tell me more. That unfortunately that could be rooted in, well, really in insecurity also, or nervousness. It is, however, a big turnoff. So if this is something you do, look at your past dates. Is there a pattern of that?
This will take some self-awareness. We're back
Mhm.
to emotional IQ to really see, do I do that? Oh my gosh, I do that. I did
Mhm.
that, Silka. And it wasn't until my husband, like this is 30, 25 years ago, something like
Mhm.
that. He said, you never let me finish a sentence. You always interrupt me. I'm like, I do not, as he's
Yeah.
talking. And I began, it was such a gift he gave to me because I
Mhm.
thought he was wrong.
Mhm.
But then I began to hear it and I began to work with it.
Really, really important point. And men do tend to err towards this more so than women. So if you are doing that, if you tend to do that, take notice, and I don't know, maybe that'll change the outcome of your next date or so. The next one too, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this one. Your behavior comes off as obnoxious. Is it overcompensation for nervousness? I mean, what is obnoxious to you, and are you coming across that way?
One would think that obnoxious is self-descriptive, self-identifying, right? Obnoxious is a pretty strong word, and it obnoxious is a big thing, right?
Maybe for the terms of, or for the benefit of this conversation, obnoxious being, are you inclined to really want attention,
To
to
be
be the
too loud.
center, to be too loud, to be the center of attention, just to be there, thinking that that gives you some sort of presence that elevates you.
Mm-hmm.
There is something to be said about walking into the room and everybody knows you walked in, but you know what, those people usually aren't saying anything. Which is why they're getting the attention. But being loud, yeah, loud and obnoxious, is that part of your behavior?
Listen, everybody can be who they are. I just choose not to hang out with that
Yeah.
because
Well,
I want an exchange. I want a connection. I want to know who this person is. And if they're doing that, then that's their shield to keep you from knowing who they are.
well, here's the last one, and this is a really good one too. We can go really deep on that. You don't respect her boundaries. Now, again, early on, even on a first date, how do you know what that you haven't discussed boundaries? To what extent can you know anybody's boundaries? What I thought was interesting about that this goes to social intelligence. We've never really talked about that. But some boundaries I think are obvious. You don't drag somebody into bed on the first date, or I mean, there some things are obvious, but some things are not. So how good are you at reading what's going on in social interaction?
Right. So you may drag a person into bed because they want to be
Right.
dragged. Okay. So maybe that's what both parties want, more power to them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about social cues, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you have a great first date
Mm-hmm.
and you text her and you say, that was really terrific. I look forward to seeing you again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next morning you text her again. Then at noon you
Mm-hmm.
text her again. Then because she hasn't, and then text her again. And say, now you've texted yourself right out of a possible connection.
Yeah.
Because that is overstepping boundaries. That is
And
pushing.
coming
And
on
then
too strong. That goes
coming
under
on too
coming on
strong.
too strong. Yeah.
Well, eventually, people are very sensitive too to stalking. I mean, at some point it
Right.
becomes stalking.
Yes.
So if you text and she texts,
Mm-hmm.
then you can text. But
Mm-hmm.
if you text and she doesn't text, don't text.
And,
Date.
and if there's discussion about, well, I'm not available here, or I mean, just the pushiness, take any sort of pushiness out of it. And you would think that all this is, everybody would know
Obvious.
that, obvious, but it really, really isn't. And we unaware, sometimes we just have to hear it. And again, I can think back of so many things that I heard and I'm thinking, oh my God, I did that. So that's what our intention is to hopefully
so
do
so
here.
so yes, thank you. And now we're back to, you may not even know that you have soft boundaries, and we're going back to the energetic piece. So this person has a body, they have all their energy and their soul and everything that's theirs. Okay. And then yours is over there. Keep it that way unless you have clear signals that
Mm-hmm.
you may commingle the energy, like hold a hand.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
um yeah.
That
So
that can be a big boundary crossing or a very welcome move. So think about that. Could this be something you're doing?
could this be something you're doing, not realizing it, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore not getting that second date,
Right.
or pushing people away? It all comes down to, one, awareness, and two, do you want to change? Do you want it to
Right.
be different? If you don't do a thing.
The point of the segment again, if you're experiencing rejection due to your behavior, if due to something you're doing, that's good or bad. I mean, that's good and bad. One, you can change it if you identify the behavior. Two, if you don't identify it, then it's just going to be a circle, a perpetuating circle, because the rejection will cause more insecurity, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's something that was probably written more as a fluff piece. I think we really went deep here, Joni.
I think
Anything?
I'm going to be doing that from now on, because I think we owe it to your listeners to take
I
it deep.
agree. No, I
I think
agree.
they not only can handle it, but they deserve it. So
I agree. Obviously, we can talk about this forever, Joni. And you brought up some great points. So if any of this resonated with you, contact Joni. She's a fabulous coach. We have all of her information in the show notes. Do have a Calendly link just for the second act viewers and listeners. And of course, I'll link to your podcast, Wake Up with Joni. And Joni, I look so forward to talking with you again soon on Second Act TV.